afternoon, everyone. My name is Smalit Hogan with the Small Business Development Center. Thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is going to be about a discussion, a candid discussion with three business owners who have been adapting to COVID-19 in various ways. They're going to share their strategies. They're going to share their stories. I want to let you all know that this webinar is being brought to you by the Western Mass Technical Assistance Collaborators, which includes the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, SCORE, the Center for Women and Enterprise, Valley Community Development, Franklin County CDC, as well as Common Capital and Massachusetts Growth Capital Corporation. So thanks to all of you for helping us bring this to you, as well as to our stakeholders, the Small Business Administration, the State of Massachusetts, and UMass Amherst. So thank you all for joining us today. First up, I'd like to ask Diane and Dylan and Frank to introduce yourselves. We're going to go one at a time. Diane will go first, then Frank, then Dylan. And I want you to share with us a little bit about your business. What was it like before COVID-19? How have you adapted to COVID-19? And also, what are your future plans? So go ahead, Diane.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm Diane Sabato. I am the founder and owner of Orange Scarf, and I sell women's accessories and clothing items. I have a sample behind me. This is a side hustle for me, a part-time job. I have been in operation for about 5 years. I teach full-time at Springfield Technical Community College, and I decided about 5 years ago that I really wanted to start an online business. And because I am a self-described scarfaholic, I thought, what a perfect business to go into. So I started by opening up an online store, and I figured for about the first year or so, I would do pop-up shops and vending events to do market research to find out what product lines and price points and what different things I could sell that are within the sort of scarf and accessories category. And when I first started with the intention of being a fully online store, I learned very quickly that about 98% of my sales were coming from in-person sales. And over the years, I sort of had that mix always about between selling in person and online. I had a pop-up shop at the Eastfield Mall Marketplace for about a year or so, and was able to sell on weekends in person there as well, all the while trying to maintain the website. And due to there only being 24 hours in a day, no matter what I wanted to, whether I wanted there to be more or not, I just had to choose what I was going to focus on. And because most of my sales were in person, that's what I was doing. And so enter COVID-19, and in a strange way, it has given me the opportunity to basically regroup, reassess, and get back to focusing on the website. In order to do that, I had to face the beast that is inventory, and I've been spending hours making sure that I have a proper track of my inventory, doing product photography, preparing the photos, and getting all of my product and inventory ready to actually put up on the website. I'm actually in a downtime for the scarf business, so the timing actually worked out very well for me. It gets very slow in February, March, and April. As it turned out, that's what has happened with us being at home, and that's what I've been spending my time in. It's actually given me time to sit and plan, go through all my social media tools, and develop a better strategy for going back to my original goal of being fully online. I think I'll still be able to, once we unlock and are able to leave home, I'll be able to still do some pop-up and vending events. I do love seeing my customers in person and interacting with my product. And I get a lot of joy out of doing so, but I absolutely want to use what I do as market research to inform what I'm then offering up for customers online. I really enjoy working online and creating the website and working on the design and figuring out how I'm going to market my products and services, where I'm going to do that. I have used some different social media tools to be able to do so, and I'd like to do that more. So I think in a way, this has turned out to be a blessing for me in disguise for my business, so that I can in fact transition back to being more online than in-person sales. Once I've done that and I've sort of rejuvenated the site, gotten my inventory up, then I use a mail management system. I used to use MailChimp, which integrated with my platform from my website, which is Shopify. And they have gone through some transitions, and I've changed to a different mail client. But I will be doing that after our economy reopens. I have to enjoy the fact that Deborah Burks is a scarf pioneer, and we're seeing her every single day rocking scarves, which is fantastic. I think it can only help my business. I think when we finally do reopen, it will be interesting to see how quickly people start buying products that aren't necessarily necessities. And I think that's something that I'm going to have to plan for. How do I speak to sort of what people are looking for? What does a scarf give them that adds value? And maybe it transforms how they're feeling about how they're looking. So we shall see. That's sort of it in a nutshell. And that's the plan for Orange Scarf moving forward.
Thank you for sharing with us, Diane. A quick question for you. How have you kept yourself motivated and uplifted through this difficult time?
That's a really good question. I am an extreme extrovert, as people that know me know well. And I think this has been particularly hard. I miss people a lot, and I'm finding that's a big challenge to motivate myself. So I think the fact that I love using Shopify, I love doing the design on the web page. I really like interacting with my own product. I have a ton of products here at my house because I'm a home-based business. I've been a solopreneur for most of the time the business has been open. For the last couple of years, I've been able to have 2 part-time employees who sadly I did have to let go or put on waivers during this COVID-19. And I'm a little sad about that because I enjoy having employees, and I miss that as a motivating factor as well. But I think just the fact that I love what I'm doing online helps to motivate me to do more. I also love learning any new technologies or things that are available to me, technology-wise, to improve what my website has to offer. So that's motivating to me as well. Plus, as a teacher, I'm actually able to see my students using Zoom and Google Meet. So that's really helped me quite a bit, actually. So that's fabulous.
That's great. Thank you for sharing, Diane.
Yeah.
At this time, I'm going to ask Frank, why don't you go ahead and share with us your story? Go ahead and I'm unmuting yourself, and you can, there you go, start the camera. Great.
Well, we started, my brother actually started the business in 1975, Valentine's Day. And so we've been up and down a few of these cycles. Nothing like this though, but so we've been through some challenges. And as a matter of fact, he started in the basement of my mother's house, making
Tell us about
cabinets.
your business.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we got started. And so our primary business is a design and build kitchen and bath business. So we focus on home improvements. We focus on kitchens and bathrooms specifically. And it's fortunately we had several projects still in the pipeline. So we have work that we've been working at different stages. We've had a few challenges here and there, but we're continuing to go forward. So also we do have some sales where we sell over the counter, so to speak, kitchens that we might design, and they may be installed by somebody else. So that's the basis of our business. It's a family. There's my brother, myself, my nephew's involved now. So it's all sort of in-house. We have a lot of projects that we've done over the years. So we're actually sort of like Diane, focusing in on new, working on our systems in-house. We're going to be reviewing the contract, I have thousands of pictures of projects that we've done, and we're working on updating our website. So going through that is a process. And so those are things that, that we've been working on. So going forward, looking ahead, we've sort of adapted Zoom, which is a new experience, but quickly have grown to like it. As a matter of fact, we're going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a Zoom appointment tonight. And the beauty is that the software that I have, I can actually, it's almost no different than being in the showroom. So I've designed a kitchen for them to look at, and we're going to critique it and see what options we can have. And this is someone who started the planning process, and we haven't finalized when we're going to start that, but we're continuing to move forward. During this time, you have to do the things. You just have to keep doing something and related to your business. Whether it's a new contract, whether it's updating the website. We've even reorganized some of our trucks and how we use them. So we just keep marching forward and take it one step, one day at a time, but planning for the future. And much like Diane, we're embracing the technology aspect of it. I think it's going to really help us going forward. And that's the big gist of what we've been doing and how we've been planning. We've also started to focus on smaller projects. This toilet paper thing, believe it or not, people have called up and asked for bidets. So who knows? There's always opportunity. We'll keep looking for it. And that's it, I guess.
Great, thank you for sharing, Frank. Can you tell us what has been the reaction from your customers in this shift?
Well, so we have a number of projects in progress. So it's been all over the place. I just started a kitchen for a 70-year-old couple, and we told them we would wear masks, we'd do this, we'd make all the necessary precautions. And he jokingly turned to me and said, "Hurry up, I don't know how much time I have left." So it's, you try to have fun with it as much as possible. I've had some clients who I have to reassure that we're going to take precautions, and if they want us to hold off, we can hold off. So we're adapting every day. Right.
Right, great, thanks for sharing that. And how have you kept yourself, the same question as Diane, how have you guys kept your spirits lifted through this very difficult time and crisis? Because your business is all about that in person, that personal touch, that sort of like customer service part of it. And so I'm sure it's hit you pretty hard.
Well, the new projects or potential projects have sort of quieted down quite a bit, but you just have to, I found that if you keep working and throw yourself into what you need to do and spend time on things that you need to do that you didn't have time to before. Also, I've spent a lot of time talking to other small business people who are in similar boats, and keeping ourselves positive. I think it's very important to just keep a positive outlook on what's going forward, because every day is different, and hopefully that will help me going forward.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Frank. That's great. So at this time, I'm going to ask Dylan to come on and join us. Hi, Dylan. How are you tonight? To this afternoon, I should say.
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. So please go ahead and share with us what your business is about, how things were going before COVID-19, have you adapted, and how your customers have responded to that.
Yeah, so my name is Dylan Pilon, the owner of Cloud9 Marketing Group, which is a digital and social media marketing agency based in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. We handle content creation, which is all the posting that goes out on our clients' social accounts. We manage those communities too by replying to comments, messages, and reviews. We do paid media, so we're running all those highly targeted Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn advertisements. We do email marketing campaigns for clients as well. And we are a Google certified agency, so we've been tested by Google to run ads on their search and display networks. I was born and raised in East Long Meadow. I went to Holyoke Community College, and then I transferred to UMass Eisenberg. So shout out to them because I know that they're a stakeholder for putting this series on. So that's great that they're being engaged in the community like that. So my marketing experience really ranges from Fortune 500. I was a digital marketing and e-commerce specialist for Newell Rubbermaid for their tools division. And then with Cloud9 Marketing Group, I've had the wonderful privilege to work with a lot of mom and pop businesses and local businesses as well. So my experience and expertise ranges pretty much across the entire spectrum. Before COVID-19, we did a lot of work out in the field. So a lot of face-to-face client meetings at their locations or within our office. We would also be on site for video production shoots or photography shoots for clients, and doing a lot of in-person consulting. So we've certainly pivoted from that operational model given the social restrictions that are put in place today. So we're relying a lot on phone calls, FaceTimes, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Ring Central, a lot of email and text messaging. Any way that our client feels comfortable communicating, we sort of form fit our business to ensure that we can keep that open rapport with them in a way that they feel comfortable facilitating. The customer reactions to this have been varied across the board. Our agency doesn't specialize in a certain industry, so we work with clients in all sorts of industries, a lot of people in the trades, real estate, food service, and a lot of other things beyond that. So depending on what industry you're in, you've really felt the impact of this, maybe a lot harder than others. For instance, my clients in food service, they've had to essentially shut down all of their in-house operation. They're relying strictly on delivery or curbside takeout. So they've been pivoting by adding in services that they might have never previously offered. I have a restaurant who signed up for DoorDash and Uber Eats, and even turned one of their employees into a delivery driver, and they never had any of those services in place before this had happened. So, we're seeing some people pivoting like that. People, as Frank mentioned, we have clients in the trades, and they're going into digital estimates, Zoom meetings instead of going into someone's actual kitchen to meet with them. Even offering to have somebody take photographs of their kitchen and talk about the changes that they would like to make. And then, the tradesperson is making a rough estimate and emailing them, a rough proposal of what maybe they could do to enhance that space without ever having stepped foot inside the building before, which is obviously a pretty radical change from normal business operation, right? And some of the more anecdotal stories, or we have clients like a brewery in Westfield, and they started making hand sanitizer because they had the equipment and the resources to be able to do that. So clearly, if you're in the production business of beer and liquor, hand sanitizer is something that you probably never thought that you'd be bottling and selling, but here we are. So it's been interesting to see how everybody's been very resilient and very open to change and adaptation, which I think speaks a lot to our local business community, that these people can pivot as quickly as they can. And shout out to the MSBDC. You guys have been absolutely crushing it, pulling together resources for small businesses to get funding and loans and grants, and putting together these educational webinars to provide value to the community. So definitely hats off to you, Sam, and your organization, because you guys have really come together and put the community on your back in a time of need. So it's really been refreshing to see people rally around that. And, hopefully this will be over soon. And as far as Cloud9, we'll be able to operate pretty much as normal. We've never been more grateful to be a digital marketing agency and do the majority of what we do on the internet. we're really reaping the benefit of being able to operate like that. So, you know, we're putting all of our energy and effort into just hoping this is over as quickly as possible, and then we'll be able to get back to life somewhat as we know it.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Dylan. And I'll ask you the same question I asked the other two speakers. How have you kept yourself motivated and your spirits lifted during this very difficult time?
Yeah, live music is a huge part of my personal life. You know, on any given Friday or Saturday, you can catch me out at a local venue, listening to a local band. So a couple folks and I have banded together, and we actually put together an online music festival that ran for 12 separate evenings over 4 weeks. And we were able to raise $3,000 for these local musicians who are out of work, because if there's no bars to play at, then all their gigs are canceled, right? So I've been keeping my spirits up by watching these live streams. These musicians are able to go on Facebook Live and perform, you know, from their living room out into Facebook, and they can get tipped through a Venmo or something like that. So that's been one way that I've been trying to resume as normal of a life as possible. And then I've actually been exercising, which traditionally I don't make time for in my regular life. I've been doing a lot of walking and running. So I think that's helped to get me out of the house, get some fresh air. So that definitely helps to keep my spirits up and not go stir crazy.
Great. Thanks for sharing all those steps. I appreciate it. So this time I'm going to ask all the panelists to come back and show us your camera so we can have any of the participants ask any additional questions you might have, things that you'd like to hear from any of these panelists we have today. So let's see, I'm going to unmute a few of our colleagues here. Let's see here. We have Lenny wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Lenny, ask your question.
Sure. Able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. First of all, thank you all so much for sharing the interesting information that you've provided. I happen to be a student of Professor Sabato in her marketing class, and you know, we've learned a lot of interesting things there. But my question is this, and it's to the panel in general. What are the practices that you believe you're going to retain after this crisis is, quote, over? I mean, perhaps it'll be over in phases. Perhaps we won't be able to completely perceive it being over. But what practices that you're doing now as a result of this crisis do you think you'll retain after it's over? And also, a related question, what practices do you think that you had used prior to the crisis taking place that you think now you're probably going to abandon?
Great question. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Hey, Lenny, how are you?
Fine. Thank you so much for letting me know about this wonderful seminar.
You're very welcome. Actually, not directly related to the business, but I also have started walking every single day, and it's very different than going to a gym, which is what I had been doing. So I plan on ditching my gym membership and actually just walking outside. It's amazing what a difference a 3 or 4 mile walk in the fresh air will do to increasing your productivity. I think another thing, and again, not directly related to the business, but I've been very intentionally every day getting up, making the bed and getting dressed, because I love pajamas. It would be so easy to stay in them all day, every day, because why not? Except for the walk. But I think just starting some practices that get you up and going and intentionally start your day being as productive as you can. A third thing, and probably last, is that I've been doing a lot of reading on how to be productive in these kinds of situations. And I find that chunking my time really works, so that it would be very easy, especially with online businesses, and we're always on our computers, to sit in one spot for hours on end. And it's so unproductive, and it's just not good for you in a lot of ways. So I think I will be doing a lot more work for a half hour, get up and do something for 10 minutes, and then come back.
For me, I'll second that what Diane said. I've been going for more walks. Actually, my wife and I have been taking more walks. We've been going on hikes, and it's really quite refreshing, gives you a chance to relax. From the business standpoint, you know, this go to meeting, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, and we actually have virtual reality. I think it's going to change. It's not going to go back to the way it was. I think I'm going to have to learn how to adapt and incorporate it more into presentations and contacts with clients. To be honest with you, I think it's fantastic. So those are the positive things.
For me, the biggest one, Lenny, has been how we can increase operating efficiency by cutting out the unnecessary meetings. I think as business people, we tend to force ourselves to try to operate in blocks of time of 30 minutes and 60 minutes. And going through this process of working from home and everything having to be phone call or email or like a Zoom meeting like this, there is so much wasted time in that 60-minute meeting where we could have had a 10-minute phone call, crushed that to-do list of bullet points, and then got back to work. You know, the amount of time that you have to commute to a location, and then you feel like you have to catch up, you shoot the breeze, how's it going, how's this and that, and then the amount of time that you actually spend talking on the business, and then you commute back to the office, you've now wasted essentially 2 full hours for 10 or 15 minutes of productivity in there. So I think that's something that I'm going to try to take back to, you know, regular operation is, hey, let's actually book a 15-minute meeting on the calendar and have a phone call instead of booking that half an hour, because we just feel like it makes more sense to chunk time like that. So that's something that I'm going to try to implement when things return.
Great. Excellent. Thank you all for answering those questions. Anyone else has a question? I have a few of our partners on the line right now. Anita from the Small Business Development Center, Amy Shapiro from Franklin County CDC, and I see Dee Dice from Valley Community Development, as well as Michelle Miller from the Center for Women Enterprise. Ladies, do you have any questions for our panelists?
I think I'm good, but thank you all so much. This is amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I do have a question for you guys. We've heard on the news a lot of these, you know, programs that have been available for small businesses. And I wonder, I'm curious to hear if any of you have been able to take advantage of any of those programs. You don't have to give us specifics. Of course, this is your private information. And if you heard of others that have been able to access these programs and how they're planning on using the funds.
I have not. I did not have a need to. Actually, my part-time employee secured another job very quickly. And so she wasn't, I've paid her for an additional month or two. But one of my sisters runs an nonprofit art community, and she applied in about the first half hour. I think the applications were available in the round 1, and it's basically allowed them not to fold.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I have applied. I have received some SBA money. And Sam, you were a big help on that. The PPP money, even though I applied early, I didn't get any, but looking forward to the next batch. And I'm going to use that for employees because I think that's very, you know, to us, it means everything. You know, that's where we're at.
Great. How about you, Dylan?
Yeah, thankfully, I mean, I've always run an extremely lean operation. We do not have a lot of overhead, which is by design. And so we're very grateful that we haven't felt the need to apply for these programs. I definitely wanted to leave that money out there for the businesses that really needed it to sustain operation. We didn't want to take the funds just because they could have potentially been available to us. But I know that there are a lot of my clients who have been positively impacted by the availability of these programs. So I'm very grateful that they exist and that hopefully there will be more money injected into these programs, and then the more folks who need that funding will be able to have access to it.
Great, thanks. We have a question from Clara. Clara, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, so I'd like to say thank you to all the panelists. This has been a great event. It sounds that all of you have been re-evaluating your business, and you know, it's time to think of how are we doing things, what's effective, what's not. have you had chance to, or have you thought of maybe how to change the business to better in a sense of a growth? Or is it really just a survival mode, or are you thinking of a growth options?
That's a great question. I'll jump in just because I think with moving back to fully online, it's, you know, the world is your oyster. Basically, when you're online, you expand your reach dramatically. And so I would no longer be the hyper local like I would be if I were only doing in-person sales. So yeah, my goal is and has always been to build the business part-time to the point that I can do it full-time when I retire from teaching. So yes, I'd love to use this ramp as a time to build the skills and learn all the tools that I need to be able to do that. That's a great question.
Our business will probably be pretty similar after this is over, although our process and how we work might be a little bit different. We have a lot of 1099 subs that we use, so you know they're pretty happy that we can keep them busy because some of their own business has dried up. So you know, I think it will change, but it'll stay similar.
Hi, Clara. Clara's a friend of Cloud9 through HTC. Nice to see you on the call. Yeah, for us, it's really just, business has been pretty normal, which is we're thankful for. I've submitted 3 proposals for new business this week. 2 of those folks reached out to us. 1 I reached out to. And we just had another consultation call this afternoon with someone who requested a proposal. So we are not trying to limit the growth by any stretch. Definitely being aware of the situation that we're in right now. We don't want to press new business too hard or come off too salesy in a time like this. I think empathy is very important. And really, I think a lot of businesses are just looking to heal or try to weather the storm. And the last thing that we want to do is become knocking on the door and saying, hey, how can you cut us a check so we can do some marketing work for you? But, you know, if approached tactfully and strategically, I think now is a time for businesses to capitalize and to grow.
Great, thank you guys. I see a question on the chat from D. I think this would be more appropriate, let's say for Frank. Frank, can you talk about your relationship with technology prior to the crisis and now after you've gone through this? Because some people, other people are having a hard time, people that are not very tech savvy. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you made that transition?
I'm somewhere in between. I have some, I've learned to really like the tech that's involved. It also helps that I know Dylan, so he has helped me. I also have a son who works in the cybersecurity field, so he also has helped me. So I've really grown to like it, and I just keep working at it. It's just like anything else. You try and you work at it, you make a mistake, and you keep going, and then all of a sudden you oh, well, I know how to do that. You know what I mean? So I think the more that we embrace it as a business, it will only help us. It's pretty amazing. I can go into someone's house with a laser and take most of all the dimensions that I need, and from without taking my tape measure out. So it's pretty amazing.
Great, excellent. Anita, go ahead and ask your question. I know you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I was wondering, Dylan, since you work across many different business sectors, what sectors do you feel are in greatest need of pivoting? Because obviously Diane's business, it's a great business, so it's going to now go online, but she's got relationships. But are there different business categories that you work with that seem to be the most in need of rethinking the way they deliver their goods or services?
Yeah, I think if you're in an industry where you need to operate in person, now is a really good time to reflect and think, how can I inject some innovation? And the answer is probably through the use of technology, but you know, for instance, if Frank wasn't as easily adaptable as he is, his business could be in trouble because most people don't want you inside of their home right now taking measurements of their kitchen, right? In the real estate space, if you had a client who was trying to sell their home, you cannot have an open house now. So what are you going to do to try to maximize the traffic? And now I use quote air quotes because it's digital traffic, but maybe you're hosting a virtual open house. You know, so any industry where traditionally you had to work in person, you should really reevaluate every single customer touch point along the way, and how can you either replace it or reduce it through the use of technology.
Yeah, that is a great point. And I see that Frank has done that.
He's at the beach right now.
Way to get into people's houses. No, put that back on. Come on, put that back on. Tell us about that thing you were wearing. What is that, Frank?
Okay, well, these are my Oculus virtual reality goggles. So I can put these on and I can literally walk around your kitchen and you can see it on the monitor how I'm walking around your kitchen. I can look at the floor, I can look at the lights, I can look at the molding, and you can literally get the feeling that you're in your future kitchen.
Wow.
Now, what happens is when people come in back to the showroom, they'll put it on and they'll get that experience. But I'm working on through potentially a Zoom meeting where I can do this and they'll get the feeling of it. So these are things that are not going to change for me. I think this is what I mean by embracing it. And fortunately, I embraced this a couple of years ago and I've been working with it for a while. And it's everyone who has tried it has really been amazed by the reaction.
Wow.
Can I jump back to Dee's question for a sec? When she was talking about some people are having a really hard time because they're not tech savvy, and you know, we see that when we moved all of our students, every grade level, online fully when they really worked completely unprepared to do so. And as small business owners in the MSBDC and other support organizations, it's a tremendous opportunity for anyone out there that is able to talk tech and talk human and translate and be able to teach just fundamental skills. I think it's a huge, huge, huge opportunity for anyone that wants to start a small business, maybe on the side or, you know, start and grow. It's a huge opportunity because I think our world has completely changed and it will not be the same after this in that regard. I think that we're going to see the kinds of communication technologies we're using now be part of everybody's life all the time. And for those that are tech shy, not tech savvy or tech averse, then I think it's going to become an entirely necessary skill for them to have, more than it already is.
Right. And we have some of our viewers are watching this on Facebook. Yep. And one of them asked, are there any online classes you would recommend for them to look at during this time?
There are a lot of online classes. You can go to Udemy, UDEMY, you can go to Udacity, UDACITY. There are a huge array of free online classes through most teaching platforms online have opened up a lot of the classes that they would have charged for and are now offering for free. I do small little classes always on Udacity and Udemy.
Okay. How about you, Dylan? What would you recommend for folks to be doing during this time to kind of get up and running with some of the technologies that they might need to use in order to replace some of those in-person interactions that they usually do?
So the 3 reasons why anybody ever hires us is I don't know how to do social media marketing.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do social media marketing. And I don't like social media marketing. So 2 of those 3 things can be easily remedied during this time, right? If you don't know how to do it, there are endless resources, forums, blog posts, YouTube videos. for you to teach yourself how to do anything that you need to do. And most people have more time on their hands now than ever before. If you don't like it, we can't really help you there. That just might be one of those things that is necessary for your business to do. And sometimes we have to do things that we don't like to do, right? But, you know, from my marketing perspective, now would be a great time to brush up on some things that have fallen by the wayside. I know, you know, Frank had mentioned working on his website, and Diane's talking about Shopify and building out a more robust store and things like that. So I think those things that every business owner and entrepreneur has a checklist of stuff that they need to do, and there's priority levels, and the stuff that we always say, we'll get to it, and it gets pushed to the bottom of the list. Now's the time to start at the bottom of that list and work your way up, because most people have the time to do it.
Okay.
And actually, Facebook and Google both offer completely online certificate-based courses. So you can take classes in the skills you need, and then you can test for a certificate. So you can become Facebook certified or a Google certified. They're robust materials that are available online.
And just to touch on that, both Facebook and Google are also offering grants and or free money in advertising credit right now as well. There are certain things that you need to do to be able to qualify, but you know, both of those platforms are also giving away money or resources for small businesses right now. So that's something that people might also want to look into as well.
Right. So, quick question, Diane. You have mentioned Udemy being one of those sites that offer online classes for folks. What are the other ones that you mentioned?
Udacity, UDACITY. And there's actually a How to Start Your Business class with Steve Blank, who's a notorious, or is that the word I want to use, entrepreneur. It's a very comprehensive online class. Sometimes people, just to get their toe in the water, I suggest some of these online how-to type classes. So they're both good sites. There's so much available. Sometimes we're spoiled by choice. It's kind of like going to a big box store and I just want to run screaming out of it because there's too many choices. So it's nice to sort of have a list. I also, to give a shout out to you guys, you have a lot of materials available through MSBDC, through the SBA website. There are links to all kinds of training material that someone has basically said these are good resources to use. Because there are a lot of resources that just aren't that good. So go to the SBA, the MSBDC site, and look up those kinds of classes.
Right. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, the SBA does have a fairly substantial learning center.
Yes.
There's a lot of webinars there for folks who, you know, either starting or growing their business. And those are all free 30-minute classes, webinars that are available online. Great. Thank you for sharing that. We have a few more minutes left here, about 12 minutes or so. I wanted to ask you all, in terms of marketing strategies, you know, going forward, when the economy reopens, right? What are your plans? Like, how are you going to do things differently? Or have you started doing things different? I know you have started doing things differently, but in terms of your marketing to reach out to customers, is there any changes that you plan to do?
I'm going to spend money, which I haven't been doing in a while, on very specific Facebook. My customers are on Facebook. And I could spend time, and as a solopreneur and business owners know, you have a limited amount of time. So I'm going to pick a social media tool and get as good at it as I can. I, in fact, want to get certified as in Facebook advertising, and I'm going to spend money and do paid advertising. I did that when I first started the business, and I had a good return, but then I started selling in person, so that got pushed to the end of the list. So I'm moving it up to the top. That's what I plan to do, because I want to grow the geographic reach, and the only way to do that is through social media marketing.
So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to give money to Dylan, and he's going to use Facebook to blow me up. But after 40 years in business, I've learned that the more money I spend on advertising and marketing, it always leads to more volume.
Yep.
So my goal is, once I get the more volume, is to keep it profitable. But if I spend money, I know it'll turn into something.
I was telling Frank when we met right before before the webinar that I've actually seen his work on Houzz, Houzz, which is a great site for anyone that's thinking of doing any home improvements, and particularly if you are looking for a kitchen or a bath. They do great work. You can look at the portfolio online.
It's a great site to get ideas.
Yeah.
You can just punch in, I want a blue kitchen, and see 1,000 pictures of what a blue kitchen looks like.
And one of you type that in the chat real quick for me? One of you type that in the chat, what the link is to that website? That'd be very helpful. How about you, Dylan? How are you planning to do things a little bit differently?
Yeah, they say that in times of crisis, bad companies fail, good companies sustain, and great companies innovate. You know, we really always tried to be focused more on the people than the product. And this has been something, an opportunity for us to really kind of take that philosophy and double down on it. So as soon as all these announcements rolled out, I personally reached out to each and every one of my clients to open up that dialogue and have a conversation with them about, hey, we understand that this is going to impact you. Let's talk about what we're going to do moving forward. You know, if you need to put us on pause, we get it. You know, how can we be here as a resource for you, whether or not it's for hire or not. At this time, we're not really worried about collecting a check. We just want to be here to help you. I think humanizing the brand is the most important thing that every company should be doing. People do business with people. They don't do business with logos. So having empathy and showing that you have a genuine concern and care for a client. And it's not just about, hey, your invoice is late. You know, that's not the right way to approach it, of, you know, not having any dialogue with folks unless it's time to get paid. So, you know, we are going to continue to operate with that mindset moving forward. We're pretty tech savvy as a company to begin with. So of course, there's always things that you can improve on, but I think the focus is going to be more on the people. The same thing for I have one full-time employee that works for me. We've been paying her extra money for hours that she's not working, and we've been giving her time off when she needs it and things like that. Just really focusing on the people more than the product or the service. And I think that in the long run will certainly pay off. I think leaving short-term money on the table is a great strategy for long-term legacy and growth and opportunity. So that's really the biggest thing that we've taken out of this, and we're going to continue to implement that moving forward.
Great. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. Before we close today, I'd love to hear from you, from each one of you. Are there any other words of wisdom or anything, any lessons learned, anything that you want to share with other business owners that are listening to you today?
I'd like to share something. Many years ago, we were down to our last $500. We spent it on some advertising for a special on Saturday. It snowed on Saturday. Only one person came in. 2 years later, we sold them a project. So, you know, even though it's dark sometimes, you just have to keep marshaling, going forward, pushing. And an inch can turn into a yard. So just keep going forward. Be positive. Better days are ahead.
Nowhere to go but up. I think that it's important for small business owners to just remember why they're in the business that they're in. And I chose to open mine because I love it and I love what I do when I'm running my business, whether I'm selling in person or selling online. And so just keep reminding myself, I love this. Every time I go to learn something new or put something else up online, I'm like, oh, I love this. And we can lose sight of that fact in sort of the mire of all that's happening. So just refocus on what you love to do and look forward.
I guess mine would be words of wisdom, set the expectation early. Don't let someone's imagination start going. Let them know how the journey is going to go and try to stick to the plan. Sell on value, not on price. What you do as a service provider is there's a value attached to that. And it's a lot of times it's much bigger than just the dollar. And when times get tough, resist the urge to pull the plug on your sales and marketing budget, because sales and marketing are the only two things that bring in more revenue into your business. And oftentimes business owners will look at all of their line items of cost and they feel like, well, we need the building, we need the inventory, we don't want to lay off our employees. And as you start going down the list, they get to that marketing and advertising budget. And they say, well, we don't have to spend as much money. But as Frank said, anytime we spend money, it generates revenue. So just keep that in mind. I know times are scary right now. Margins are thin, revenue is low. Stay the course. People are on social media now more than they ever have been before. So capitalize on that.
One other thing, local business, spend money on local businesses, local banks, local whatever, because what happens is that turns into more dollars than, it's quite easy to go to Amazon, believe me, okay? But local business, that's what turns the wheels.
Great point. Thank you, Frank, Dylan, and Diane for being with us today. Love it. I appreciate your time. At this time, I want to share with everyone that this and other webinars have been brought to you by the Western Mass Technical Assistance Collaborative for small businesses. I'm going to show on the screen several contact information for many of the folks who are available to assist you as needed, and including myself, Somalit Hogan from the Small Business Development Center. Anita Eliasson is also on the line. You can email us at that email address on the screen. D. Dice from Valley Community Development, Center for Women Enterprise, Michelle Miller, SCORE, Michael Connolly, Common Capital, Raymond Lansawile, and Amy Shapiro. These are the folks. I'm going to show it up again on the screen for another second or two so you can write it down. You can also see it in the recorded version of this webinar on our Facebook page. I want to thank once again to all of our speakers for joining us today and for sharing your words of wisdom, inspiration, for not giving up, and for continuing to do what you do for your communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.